All right, everybody, welcome back to Culz Reviews Deep Dives. This week we doing something different, and it's going to kind of kick off a 3 week span of doing spooky movies or Halloween-esque movies. And this was kind of something Grayson thought of. He said, "Hey, it's Halloween time. Do you have a spooky or kind of horror movie?" And we came up with this idea. So if you guys like it, maybe we'll do more. Christmas time has a bunch. I'm not sure what we have for Thanksgiving, but I'm sure we can find something. December, we can always still throw in a New Year's movie, but this should be fun. We got Halloween Town starting off this week, a good old classic from the 90s. And we got some guests here. We got Grayson, David, and of course Sam's back. How you guys doing today?
Good. How are you?
We're doing better than few weeks ago when we did our last live stream. So
hmm
Sam's like, I heard about it. No, but we'll get into Halloween Town. It was a made-for-TV movie by Disney, which at points I think you can see, but at the same time, I think it holds up decently well, given its budget wasn't super high. And again, it was made for TV in a time when Disney wasn't throwing around cash like they do today. We'll kind of go one by one. David, since your first alphabetically last name, was this your first time watching Halloween Town, or did you grow up with it?
Oh, absolutely not. No. Halloween Town is one of those classic DCOM movies, man. This is a traditional movie. You got to watch this every Halloween.
Yeah, and we'll give a shout out. I know Shane's not here, but Shane put this as one of his top 20 movies. So just wanted to put that out there. It is definitely one that's gotten some love from different people that we've talked to. Grayson, was this your first time watching Halloween Town?
This was my first time watching Halloweentown. I did not grow up with it. My parents were very religious growing up, so if it was not, you know, very approved, it was not something that I got to watch. So this was my first time seeing it.
And Sam, I know from talking to you, this was not your first time watching it, right?
First time this year. It's a little early for when it usually shows, but no, I've definitely watched this a lot.
Yeah, and I'll say this isn't my first time watching it, but I haven't watched it in a good old long time, so I don't have perhaps all the nostalgia. But it's kind of fun. It almost plays off in a way like a Twilight Zone movie where it has this weird alter reality that these people go to. Maybe I've been reading too much Twilight Zone. Stay tuned for that book review. It'll be coming up some point. David, as far as like your thoughts, what are some early thoughts about this movie?
I mean, I think it was a great Halloween family slash kids movie. It definitely lined up with other DCOM movies, which is Disney Channel original movie. They are, like you mentioned, made specifically for the Disney Channel. Never meant to be in theaters or anything. Very much, movies for their channel to promote that. I guess it was kind of one of the first, like, how they have Netflix originals. These were the Disney Channel originals. Um, Great movie. I think it had just the right amount of, magic and whimsy to tie into Halloween, but it wasn't ever like scary. There was a bit of thrills, I guess. The bad guy, of course, looking pretty evil and such, and the mom and grandma being, taken out and everything. It always had that classic moment of the kids being independent on their own, having to save the day without the adults around and all that. And definitely had that message of believing in yourself and, faith will get you through type thing. But no, I think it's a fantastic movie. I think it still holds up even though it's from, back in the 90s. It's a great story. I think just the fact that we're even talking about it now proves that. And they made like 3 sequels to it. I think there's 4 altogether. It's a very interesting world, and I think they could still expand on it if they wanted to.
Well, speaking of expanding on, the theme parks do a lot with their movie stuff. Have they ever done anything with this movie in particular around Halloween?
As far as I know, I don't think they have. I know a lot of the decorations on Main Street at Disney World and such do kind of look very Halloween Town-esque, but I will say the town where they filmed, I believe it's up in Washington, every year they turn the entire thing back into Halloweentown. They have the giant pumpkin in the town square. They do activities every weekend. They have celebrities from either the Halloweentown movies or other movies show up and do like signings. They decorate with a bunch of the stuff from the movie. So it's definitely something I want to check out some year.
Yeah, I was gonna say that sounds like a fun Halloween episode that could be filmed
Oh,
up
for
there.
sure. Yeah.
That'd be great. Well, and you also sent me something, speaking of people from within the movie. There's still promotional stuff going on as far as different characters within the movie, right?
Yes, you were talking about the McAllister's Deli, how they have a partnership with the actress who played Marnie that is promoting a new witch's brew drink that they have. I don't know if they're allowed to specifically say Halloweentown, but we all know why it's her and why it's a witch-themed drink. So, uh, but I think it's really interesting that even now they're using those same characters and stories and actors to, promote different products and know that enough people will get it to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely says it has some staying power. Sam, as another person that watched this as a kid and watches it kind of regularly, what are your thoughts kind of early on with this film?
I mean, it definitely held up because I watched it a lot more as a kid than I do now. Like, it's been like you a couple of years since I have watched it, mainly because I don't watch like cable TV anymore because most of it sucks. I mean, I'll always pop into the Scooby-Doo marathons every once in a while when they do it in October, but no, I mean, like David said, I thought it still had like made the inner child in me like go like, oh, I remember this movie like pretty well, more than I thought I did. Like, it was, I don't know, it was a good one that they did. And I just remember this and like a couple other of like the big famous Halloween movies, like every Halloween would just be on TV.
Yeah, I will say, speaking of Scooby-Doo, that was on the short list, Zombie Island, to do this year. So next Halloween, guys, if you guys want to watch us do that, tell us in the comments below. We'll do Zombie Island for you. Grayson, as someone that watched it for the very first time, what are your thoughts?
I mean, honestly, I do appreciate. It took me back to a time when I was a kid. It was definitely a DCOM movie from that era. It was super. I want to be delivering a lot of sacrilege for those that grew up with this movie, but a little corny, a little cheesy, but that's kind of the magic of the early, late 90s, early 2000s movie. It's hard to really hate a movie that was made for that, just trying to capture, a little of the magic of the holidays to give to kids back in the day. So, but yeah, when I was watching it, it made me feel like I was a kid again, even though I'd never seen the movie. You could feel that the essence of the DCOM movie just emanating through that film.
Yeah, and I think it holds up pretty well, especially like we've said, it's just a made-for-TV movie that garnered success, that entitled a whole, franchise at this point and a lot of fan base. But it's held up pretty decently well. I mean, they use practical effects and there's some CGI and we'll get to it, but even the CGI I thought worked in the realm of the movie. And it's kind of fun. There's some, like I said, Twilight Zone, maybe Wizard of Oz-esque moments going on here. And you can see some of the characters are just like, the actors, I should say, are just really into their character and just like having a fun time, which is always fun to see because sometimes in really good movies, you get good actors and you can tell they're just there for the paycheck. So sometimes it's good to just see people having fun. Well, David, we'll kick it off and tell the audience a little bit about we'll give them like a synopsis of what this movie is.
Yeah, definitely. So it starts out with your typical family. They are celebrating at Halloween, and the older daughter, who I believe she's 13 now, she's trying to get her mom to go to a Halloween party, and her mom's like, no, her mom's really not into Halloween. And you're like, okay, it's a big time, religious family. No, I'm just kidding. But she doesn't let their kids really have much to do with Halloween. So they're all kind of bummed out, and then their grandma suddenly shows up out of nowhere. But before the grandma gets there, you see her getting off a bus, and she has a bag that can move, and you're like, all right, so there's something weird with the grandma. Eventually, you find out that this grandma actually is a witch from Halloweentown, but the kids don't know about this. But their mother came from Halloweentown, was born there as a witch, and then fell in love with a human and started their life in the human world. So they've never been told about their powers or anything, and their mom wants them to have a regular human life. The older daughter overhears this, and the kids end up sneaking back onto the bus with the grandma and end up in Halloweentown. Once they get there, of course, they're all about learning their powers and wanting to be a part of this new magical world that they think is fantastic. But everything is not as nice as it seems in Halloweentown, as there's something evil happening that the grandma is trying to help fight off. Of course, Halloweentown is full of residents with different monsters. There's skeletons that drive taxi cars. There's ghosts. There's vampires. But it's just a regular society of them all living in peace as these Halloween time monsters. Now, it turns out that this evil power that is taking over the town is, there's something they're trying to get it against. And her grandma's like, you know what? I'll teach you kind of how to be a witch and you can help me fight it. So they get ready to start trying to do that, but then the mom realizes they snuck off to Halloweentown, and she shows up and she demands the kids go back home. They aren't going to get to be witches. This isn't what she wants for them. And they're like, oh, and they try to go back home, but the bus isn't working, so they have to hang out a little longer. And in that time span, this evil force ends up basically taking out the grandma and the mother and freezing them in this like movie theater, and the kids barely manage to get away. They're really scared. They don't know what to do, and they decide that they're going to finish the spell that the grandma started and help fight this evil force and get them back. So then we get, some very delightful scenes of them at different places throughout Halloweentown. Like they're at the dentist with the tooth fairy taking the fang out of a vampire's mouth. They go to a gym with a bunch of monsters working out to get ghost sweat, silly things like that. And eventually they're able to duplicate the spell, and they get it into this talisman that lights up, and it's finally working. So they go back to town where they're trying to figure out where do they put it, and they realize, oh, it's got to go inside the giant pumpkin because, the light in a pumpkin, sure. But then the evil guy happens to show up and tells the Halloweentowners basically that they need to follow him, and that it's been too long that they've been stuck in Halloweentown, that they should be in the real world, and that humans have pushed them to this alternate world, and it's not fair to the monsters. And he basically wants to start a big rebellion of taking all the monsters into the real world and destroying the humans. But then Marnie, the main witch, the older daughter, she manages to get the candle, the talisman, into the pumpkin. It lights up. Everything's great. The mom and grandma come back. And then the bad guy's like, well, I don't care about your talisman. I can still win. And he's about to, do like the final blow to take him out. But the family comes together and they all have magic and they all believe in it, including her little brother, who thought that the magic stuff was just kind of, that's not scientific. But he has magic too. They all believe together and they banish Calabar, the bad guy, and everybody's happy. And the grandma goes to live with them to help continue the daughter's training as a witch.
Well, and speaking of Calabar, when did J.K. Rowling start writing Harry Potter?
It was definitely in the 90s.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wondered, because there were some themes in here where I was like, wonder if she got some of this, or Voldemort from him. I mean, he also at times reminded me of Palpatine, which we'll get to Palpatine next week.
Okay, so Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone / Sorcerer's Stone came out in 1998.
Oh, the same year as this movie.
It did, yes.
Yeah, and see, Voldemort notoriously wanted to go out and take over the Muggle world. So I was like, I wonder if she kind of got some of that from here.
Well, I know that a lot of the Voldemort stuff is parallels to like Nazis and such, so maybe it all goes back to those original bad guys. She stole it from
Star Wars. It was Palpatine all along. Well, Sam, anything you want to add to that synopsis? Or, I mean, I think David did a pretty good job there.
No, he definitely covered all of
it. See, that's why we brought David on. He knows. Grayson, anything you wanted to add to the synopsis?
No, just as Sam said, David covered it really well.
10 out of 10, David.
All right, it's been fun. Have a good week, guys.
All right, have fun. All right, so we'll go around again. David, do you have a scene that sticks out to you in particular?
I don't know about a particular scene, but I will say I thought it was pretty obvious throughout the movie that her little sister seemed to be stronger than her. Sophie, it seemed like she was very much kind of more in tuned with making things happen, like opening the lock and I don't know if it's supposed to be something like kids believe easier and it's like faith-based or what, but I just thought that was really funny that Marnie is the witch that we like focus on throughout the whole thing, and she's like the hero, and yet I feel like her little sister had more magic in her than anybody else in that family.
It's
Well, her little
probably
brother
because
might have too.
Maybe,
true.
yeah.
Well, the little brother was like easily convinced out of it, like how the mother kind of said that, like, I spent years convincing you out of it. So she is older, so she's at that point where she was just like believed in it, but like wasn't like more in tune to it as like the younger kids were.
Yeah, I think that's definitely what it has to be. But I
Yeah.
know even in the sequels moving forward, it's all about Marnie all the time.
Hey, you gotta focus on that main character. Do the since I've never seen any of the sequels, I only knew there was a second one. I didn't realize there was this whole franchise. Does any of the other characters come back?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I think almost everybody's in almost all of them except the last one.
Okay. So it's not a Home Alone type of thing, right?
No, but they do recast Marnie for some reason in the fourth one.
Conflict. There was a scheduling conflict at some point. They were like, we got to get this next one out.
So we could talk about that more, I guess, if we ever cover it. But apparently, she didn't even know she was being replaced until she saw like advertisements for the movie.
Oh, so it was a Don Cheadle situation.
Maybe.
Sam, what about you? Do you have a scene that sticks out to you in this movie?
No, probably not. As like now, like when I was younger, probably I just don't remember that if there was a scene specifically. Yeah,
I'll say the scene I've spoken about most this week was definitely the broom salesman and his wacky Elvis inspired stuff. What's his name? He's actually in the MCU now, the actor. He is, oh man, and he was an Amazing Spider-Man. I'll find out the name while Grayson gives us a scene that sticks out to him.
Honestly, the one that sticks out to me the most is probably when they introduced the cabbie, just because whenever Halloween time came around for like Disney Channel, I always saw that guy and I always thought he looked like the coolest dude. So to finally see where that like kind of came from stood out to me. But yeah, I always liked seeing like the animation, or not even the animation, but I mean, for the time, how good of an like animatronic or puppet it was for the whole setup actually was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it holds up. You know, the skeleton like jaw moving up and down still looks pretty decent. You know,
The only thing
Even-
that looks weird is like his eyes and stuff. It's like it almost doesn't match, but you know, you kind of have to give it a pass, or at least I do anyway.
right. Well, I mean, what was the budget for this movie? Let's see. So while I'm looking up another fact, David, if you could change something about this movie, what would it be?
I think maybe have a few more scenes with what was the kid, the guy that with the nose that was like his little assistant or whatever.
Oh yeah, where he's only in a couple scenes and then yeah, he transforms back.
Right. I mean, and he gets a lot more time in the next movies, so that's fine, but maybe build that conflict up a little bit more instead of just having it feel kind of shoehorned in.
Hmm.
Either that, or I wouldn't have minded seeing more of the HALLOWEENTOWN citizens. We get some group shots at some points, but we don't get a lot of characterization. Like Benny, like you were saying, Benny's great. I think that is a great character driving the cab and everything, but the kids don't get a lot of interaction with anybody beyond like him and the mayor, you know? So I think that'd be kind of cool to have some other characters and maybe make it seem like a bigger deal that people are like disappearing. Maybe ones that the kids actually meet that disappear or change or whatever. Something like that might have been nice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that would make sense if they set up some of the characters and they grow some friendships or at least get to know a little bit. And then they go, you know, have to go there the next day and they're just missing. Because then it adds a little bit more intrigue for them as well. I mean, I guess once their mom and grandma get like turned into stone or whatever, then they're like, yo, we got to get on this. The answer was 4 million US dollars. So sparse money. It's 20 million less than they gave The Crow 2024. Sam, if you could change anything in this movie, what would you do?
I don't know if I would change anything. I mean, I think it's great as is. it is great as is. Like, I see what David is saying, but like, it all happens within like a day, so it does make sense that it's all kind of crazy. And I don't think they expected to make more movies after this. It was just going to be like a kids' movies on TV, and not like a series that it became.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's the problem. Sometimes you make a movie and you expect it to be good, and you're like, okay, we're gonna make a sequel, and then it doesn't do good, and then vice versa. And we see that a lot with Hollywood, where they're like, hey, we made a lot of money, let's make a sequel, and the director's like, I don't have any ideas for the sequel. So, for me, I think it would have been nice to have a scene with the mayor and like the evil person, more like Wizard of Oz esque, just to kind of make it seem like he wasn't the bad guy. Because like I think as a kid you probably wouldn't notice, but as an adult you definitely notice like right away he's the bad dude. I don't know. That's just me.
Oh yeah. I mean,
I
from
would-
watching it a couple times when
Yeah.
he's like, I got big changes for it. It's just like, okay.
Yeah. You can go to get help, but not just wait a little bit, okay? Yeah, no, I would have just set up one scene where it's like a fake out, somehow. Grayson, what about you?
Also kind of to your point, as soon as I saw the mayor pop out, I'm like, you didn't even need to like hear him speak. I'm like, he's the bad guy, 100%. Just the way they shot him, the way they presented him, I'm like, he's gonna be the bad guy. Just you wait. So I think there could have been more like misdirection put in throughout the story. I know like a lot of it was definitely more like, you know, capturing the whimsy of people, like being in a whole world made of Halloween stuff and like trying to capture that kind of idea to give to kids. But yeah, it could have been a little bit more, development of the villain itself, and at least kind of try to like steer you away from the mayor, being like, maybe it's not him, maybe it's this. But that's pretty much what I got.
And then kind of speaking on acting, David, what did you think about the acting?
I think that it was perfect decom cheesiness. Definitely over dramatic, overplayed and everything, but it fit the tone of the movie and the story they were trying to tell. It's kind of like an exaggerated fairy tale, so I was fine with it.
Sam, what about you?
I would definitely agree. Like, it was perfect for that time. Like, if it was made nowadays, I would probably have some opinions about it. But, no, back then it was, no, it was good.
Yeah, I mean, if it were like kind of like what Sam was saying, it would be if I was watching that today at being a grown ass man, I would feel a certain way about it. But I mean, it was definitely made for kids. It, like, as we've all said multiple times, it was late 90s Disney Channel, just cheese that we all grew up with, that we all know and love. So it is, going back to it was good to see. But that's pretty much what I got.
Well, and they were at least able to wheel in one big name, Debbie Reynolds. David, do you want to speak a little bit to her character and perhaps where people had seen her from previously?
Yeah, no, Debbie Reynolds was fantastic in this. I think it was really cool having her as like the head witch and everything. And as a matter of fact, let me double check. I think she might be one of the only ones who is in every single movie. And her not being around anymore is what makes them think there will never be a fifth HALLOWEENTOWN movie. Though I think they could still do it if it was maybe like Marnie grown up as the head witch now taking over. Kind of, I think they could definitely do that. But of course, Debbie Reynolds is, as we know, Carrie Fisher's mom. So got some Star Wars royalty there, kind of. You've seen her in probably tons of stuff. I mean, she's the stereotypical old lady if you weren't casting Betty White. I think she did a great job, though, of being that. Honestly, the vibes she gives off are what I think the vibe should have been for Dumbledore in the movies, where it's kind of a wise and caring person, but just kooky enough that you're kind of like, all right, something like that, and then could potentially seem pretty fierce if they were very upset. So I think the casting, honestly, all the casting in this movie, I think was spot on. They did a great job with everybody. You could believe that this was a family, even with the mom being a redhead and nobody else. But it still, it worked out. I feel like it was a very good unit of actors. All the parts were well. And Debbie Reynolds just kind of led the charge on that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, she has that like kind, warm-hearted like persona, but at the same time, there's parts of her where she's just definitely trying to like lead the kids for sure to go there against like their mother's will. She's like planting little ideas, just being mischievous. So yeah, I can see that. And then Kenneth Choi is the guy that plays the broom salesman. He is in. I know he was in what was that, WandaVision?
Keegan's fixated on this broom salesman guy for a story that nobody would get if it was told.
Yeah, we know who Keegan's favorite character was now.
All right, Sam, what about you?
Is that what you're gonna wear for Halloween this year?
It could be. Could be. Actually, we're gonna try to get someone else to wear it, but that's a story for another time. Grayson, let's go. You talked about kind of like filmmaking as far as like how they shot different, scenes, especially our villain. Do you want to talk about like the cinematography and stuff like that real quick?
I mean, I can. Obviously, it's a TV movie, so they did a lot with a limited budget, as we kind of covered. But I would say it's the one thing that I kind of miss from movies of this era was, the practical effects, the way they shot everything, like even with the shot compositions of like stuff like the moving bag and everything. You can definitely tell like they shot it in a way where like they was able to look more like, wondrous because nobody, has ever seen it before, and that's not part of the natural world. And like they did some like cheaper stuff to like make sure that they were able to still kind of like they creatively use their budget with their shots. And especially like when she the coolest thing I think was probably when like she turned the fried chicken back into a real chicken in order to preserve the freshness. I thought that was pretty cool. But stuff like that, you can kind of tell that I didn't do like any deep research into it, but the way they shot the movie still made it feel like a real like high quality movie, even though they were working on $4 million. And I honestly kind of miss that being what a lot of projects used to do. No matter what the budget, they made sure it still looked professional and quality enough for people to actually enjoy.
Yeah, working within your budget, not just trying to make everything big and doing some world building. We see it at one point where they say Halloween was based off of them and their traditions. And so that's kind of a fun little Easter egg, but it helps build the world and give it more depth. Sam, do you want to talk or wait, go ahead, David.
Just imagine this. What if HalloweenTown would have had the same budget as the new Joker movie?
Is Disney still making it?
Yep. Like
it depends who's
Are we talking
it.
Today's Disney or are we talking 1990s Disney?
Okay. Back then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same
Michael
time
Eisner, I
span,
can trust that.
But they have the equivalent of that kind of movie, of that money, to make this movie.
I mean, it'd probably be on par with, for sure, probably that first Harry Potter movie, as far as like starting. I mean, it started
even better, yeah.
Yeah, it started something anyway. So
like you can definitely tell in some of those crowd scenes that the monsters, it's literally just a Halloween mask on top of somebody. Like it's hilarious, but
hey, but that's some of the charm. See, oh, man, I want to. So you going back to the town. Do they have people in character from the movie, or do they just do the town?
Yeah, no, they have people walking around like dressed up and stuff.
Nice. Maybe they have the broom salesman. I just did that for Sam.
Start applying, man. That could be your job next October.
There you go, Keegan.
Yeah, but okay, going back to the 90s with more of a movie budget. I mean, what other movies came out around that? We had Toy Story. What live action movies did Disney do? Do we know?
All right, we had Mighty Joe Young, The Parent Trap, Mowgli's Story, and Ever After. Apparently that's being listed as one of their movies.
Ever After was a solid Cinderella take, I think. Drew Barrymore. And Parent Trap. Parent Trap was so good that a lot of people still think Lindsay Lohan has a twin.
I mean, to that point too, with Mighty Joe Young, some of those animatronics that they used for that for the gorilla would still, like, in Halloween Town, that'd be insane, dude.
Oh my god, yes. If they could have had a monster like that, oh.
Yeah, like actually make like either a goblin or like an orc or something like that, or just something just like grotesque with something that big. That'd be sick. With that kind of budget.
Well, Mighty Joe Young looked nice enough as far as the animatronics that it actually shelved a King Kong remake until 2005. They saw it, they're like, well, we can't do better than that. And then they just moved on to Lord of the Rings. So, hey, thank you, Mighty Joe Young, for giving us Lord of the Rings.
Amen.
But
then we disrespected his descendant, Harambe.
Rest in peace.
That's right. We respect Harambe on this channel.
Okay, so as far as actors, so going into like our mythical, like, theater-made Disney movie, I mean, they'd probably still bring in Debbie Reynolds, you think, but who else do you think they would try to get if this was a bigger budgeted movie?
I mean, honestly, I'd keep them the same. Like, I don't have a huge knowledge of child actors of the late 90s. Let's see.
Yeah,
Children
that's kind of weird.
There's the kids from Jurassic Park. Just put all the Jurassic Park kids in there.
Why?
I don't know. That's the only kid actors I know.
Okay, I guess Macaulay Culkin could have been the brother.
Oh yeah, I could have seen that. Or the
actually no, I would put him as the troll kid, Luke.
What about what's the kid from? Oh man, is it Jerry Maguire? Oh man, I don't know.
Are you talking about the kid that was in Stuart Little?
Yes, that one. Just put him as the brother.
You know what? We could have also done Amanda Bynes could have been Marnie. But she was kind of owned by Nickelodeon at that point.
Oh yeah, so they would have axed that. Well, I don't know.
Oh, actually, sorry, no. Okay, Luke, the troll kid, that's gonna be Jake Lloyd, the kid who played Anakin. Yep. He could pull off that kind of asshole-ish, totally works. I think Melissa Joan Hart was too old to be in these movies at that point. But she had the witch stereotype going for her.
Okay, who would have played the mayor? Jeff Goldblum?
Oh man, that would have been amazing.
Yes.
Yes, didn't you see the election?
I mean, I know he's playing the wizard in Wicked.
No, don't be scared. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm not the bad guy here. It's not me. That's more that's more what's his name from Star Trek?
Shatner?
That's the one.
What I like about it though is if they would have kept all the cast the same and they just added Goldblum so that you would know right away when he came on screen, like, oh, he has to be the bad guy. They have like a big name in just that. Come on. I love when they do that in like the crime TV shows and stuff when it's like, oh, that's an actor I recognize. Obviously, that's the murderer.
Yeah. Huh. Here's all our regular people, and here's an A-list actor. I wonder who's the bad guy, because he's definitely not coming back next episode.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's just a bit part of somebody they interviewed for 10 seconds. Yep.
Well, and see, for the mom, I was going to say Julianne Moore, just because they look similar. But you're missing out the fine chance to just put Carrie Fisher in that role.
True.
I think she might have been a little too old to play it at that point. But
You think
otherwise,
so?
I agree.
That would have been, yeah. All right, Disney. We know you already put Carrie Fisher CGI, so don't listen to our hypothetical movies. We don't need more of that.
Somebody just at Disney writing it down right now.
He's like, oh, that's a good idea. We did do that in Rogue One. See? And David said they couldn't make a fifth one, but they'll just be like, we own her rights. We'll just CGI her back in.
We've got the
I'm
scans.
all for a fifth one.
I mean, I think your idea works. It's kind of what they do now with kind of like soft reboots where they bring back, younger actors that were like kids or, teens from the first movies, and now they're kind of like leading it. So I think that would work.
The
No, you
only
could just
way it
call
would
it
work,
Going
though,
Back to
they've got to
Halloweentown
bring
2.
back the original Marnie.
Do you think she would come back?
Oh, yeah. I think she would. She needs money.
For that Disney paycheck?
Honestly, the way money is now, she'd probably get paid the same as what the budget of this movie was.
Probably.
Facts.
Actually, probably more. It's
Exactly.
kind of
It'll be
like
Disney Plus Disney Plus only project.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about money. We'll kind of look at a football term for the people that like watching our sports chats. Dak Prescott recently got paid almost the same amount that Jerry Jones bought the entire Cowboys team for, which is insane, like how much the team's grown in profit since then. And Disney's the same way. Because, like, back in the 90s,
WWE football, it happens that way.
WWE, no.
I mean,
But
look how much money Disney Plus pumped in for Hocus Pocus 2.
how much did they pay for that one? I mean, I know.
Budget of Hocus Pocus 2. $40 million.
And was that just a streaming one? Or did they have a theatrical?
Yeah, streaming only.
Okay. Yeah, because what did they spend on Lady and the Tramp? Because that was like their first kind of like streaming only movie.
Lady and the Tramp?
Yeah.
Let's see. Budget of which is a live action nobody needed.
Hey, you needed to see that scene in live action, which was still CGI. So it wasn't live action.
$60 million.
60 million? They put 60 million. I mean, I guess it was CGI.
This is what I don't understand. Like, when they did, for example, the Lion King CGI, okay? And Lion King's my favorite Disney movie. I was super excited. The CGI was awful. But did some guy get paid to go out to Africa and just film empty sets for them to add the CGI to later?
I thought it was all CGI. Or did they use actual footage?
I think
like
they used
did with
actual
Dinosaur?
backgrounds of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they did that with Dinosaur, so it doesn't surprise me.
And that movie was awful.
Hey, and if you guys want, in November, we'll probably have a deep dive coming out on it. We might have already filmed it like a month ago. Who knows? But yeah, so whoever has that job, you're lucky because you get to travel and film nothing to put stuff in. So, Disney, if you're listening, you need us to go wander around locations and film for you. We're more than happy to. Let's see. What else should we talk about? Have we talked about the score? Is there any songs from this one or music, Grayson, that stuck out to you?
Not really. With these kind of movies, I just want to say that it's always funny to hear them do like generic pop music to fit into the movie so they don't have to pay any royalties or anything like that when they're listening to a radio. But yeah, nothing like musically kind of stuck out to me. It was every like sort of generic DCOM movie score you've heard for the most part, at least in my opinion anyway.
And this was pre them having Zac Efron and Demi Lovato and everyone to just start singing for them. So
they just didn't have their head in the game yet.
No.
I like the main theme that they continued on throughout the rest of the movies. It became kind of their like iconic catch piece. I like that. And I just got to say, if we're going to talk about DCOM music, we have to do a deep dive of the Xenon trilogy because every song in the Xenon movies is a bop.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen that.
Zetus Lapidus. You got to watch them.
You're missing out on some high quality early 2000s cheese, my man.
Especially with all the sci-fi. Oh,
yeah, it's crazy.
It's
Keegan has
beautiful. It's a futuristic girl that is obsessed with a pop star. That's basically the theme of all three movies.
Oh, that's great. All right, so kind of building off the lore of this movie, we won't go into too much of the sequels, David. But how did the sequels build off of this one?
They do a good job of roping in just like the, you know how they have like the you can only come on one night and all that. They kind of build more off of that. That gets changed a little bit. But one of the sentiments that I think is really interesting that they chose to build on was actually the sentiment of Calabar as the bad guy, where he was like, hey, it's not fair that monsters have to be basically shoved into this world that we got kicked out of the real world. So it really becomes kind of a point of the movies of what if we can bring them back together, and can monsters and creatures coexist with humans again? And they kind of ride that a little more into the future, especially in the third movie.
Very interesting. Well, hey, next Halloween, maybe we can do Halloween 2, and then year after that, we'll do
Honestly,
3.
the second one's probably the best one.
Is it?
Yeah, Calabar's Revenge.
So is it same actor? Like he comes back and everything?
You'll have to watch it.
Oh man, but it's a year away.
You could do it, Keegan. We believe in you.
Do you? Do you believe in me?
Sometimes.
All right.
Depends on the scenario.
Hiking into the woods late at night when we thought we were going to Aurora, you know?
Yeah.
Trying to think what else we need to cover. Well, did this spawn any books or comics or anything like that? I'm sure it spawned like some like kids books and
I'm
stuff
sure there
like
was
that.
toys and stuff.
Yeah. I'm kind of shocked because I knew Disney and everyone does like Halloween themed stuff. I'm surprised they don't, do more stuff with this movie.
I'm not really sure of the if they still have the rights or what, or who else may be involved, because I know with TV movies and stuff, there's always different hands involved with like studios and stuff. So maybe they don't have the full rights. No, you look up HALLOWEENTOWN merch and it's a lot of Etsy stuff. They got a couple souvenir books that's like images from the movies, but I don't think they ever really had a novel. They might have had a novelization.
Yeah, one of those like junior novelizations or something like that, or a coloring book. I'm sure it was something big back in the day with the Disney stuff.
And probably people made like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there might have been a game kind of loosely based off of it, or like mods to a game.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there was even a novelization.
We'll see, Disney. Honestly, I could see him just rebooting it and like making a new one.
Yeah, I mean, to the point of like actually creating any extensive production or any sort of like actual, like stuff just to buy just products. I don't really think that really hit from the DCOM stuff until like either Lizzie McGuire like movies or honestly High School Musicals when it started to get really big.
Yeah, because the Lizzie McGuire movie went to theaters, and High School Musical 3 was theatrical.
But like, I honestly think like High School Musical was like the very first one where like I can at least remember anyway, where like a product line where you could buy like the T-shirts and the posters and like all of that was like super huge.
Yeah, it was definitely in that era of High School Musical, Lizzie McGuire, that you could get merch and clothes and stuff like that.
Now, like, honest opinion, back in that day, could you see Disney where it is today?
The corporation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think so? Greyson,
they already had too many hits.
I think in the 90s, I could see them taking it all the way to the top. And once they started hitting like that mid 2000s, like lull, I would never have expected Disney to be where it is today. I thought it would have just started going downhill a little bit quicker. But yeah, if you were talking to me, like if I was this old back in 1990, I'd be like, oh yeah, they're going to be huge.
I never saw them buying Star Wars and Marvel, stuff like that. No.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy just to think, they were making these made-for-TV movies, and it was kind of their bread and butter back in the day. I mean, they did have their animated movies, but in the 90s, it was kind of one of their dark eras. We've talked about one of their dark era movies as far as Dinosaur, but it's amazing the turnaround. And who headed that? Was that Iger that did the turnaround, or who headed it?
I think so.
Okay. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. So Disney, if you're listening, I think it would be something looking into. I know probably not long term, but just make it themed for Halloween. Make a Halloween themed thing in your park. I think it would do really well. Like it's big enough for a lot of people.
I mean,
Shane's.
their parties go crazy. They sell out like that.
Mm,
Their Halloween parade that they have the headless horseman at the front of, and all the characters dressed up and everything. Like people buy $200 tickets to it.
yeah, it's insane how much that place costs. It really is.
Well, didn't they have Benny the cab driver like as at least like some sideshow for a while? Or am I remembering that wrong?
I don't think so. They might have though. It'd be a fun one. Just have it like parked on Main Street and he talks to people. That'd be great.
Mhm.
Yeah, just doing something like what they do with the R2D2s or like the droids now, just kind of have it go around and just like constantly like at a slow speed or just something like that. Just have somebody in there talking to the crowd. That'd be kind of sick. Yeah.
Or do like what they do with the night bus and just have it stationed with the driver.
What I think is interesting, I don't know if there's a connection. Benny was also the name of the cab in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And they kind of got that same kind of accent and attitude type thing. I wonder if there's any correlation.
Well, I was gonna say Calabar, when he's like in his evil form, definitely seems like maybe Ian McDiarmid got some ideas about how to do Palpatine from it. Just like his face. I mean, I know he did it back in what was that? Return of the Jedi. But just as far as like going all out in the third Revenge of the Sith, it reminded me of that a lot. But I think that will end our first week of Halloween spooky season movies. We started off with a movie for everybody. This is a movie you can watch with the whole family. So we didn't want to go into too much spoilers. We kind of just give you a brief synopsis, but it was fun. David, rating or recommendation?
I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's a solid start to the franchise. Kicked off a great thing. Again, I think the second one's the best. That would be my 10 out of 10 probably for these. But it's really good. Great introduction to the world, to the characters. They told a concise story without, making it too convoluted like they could have, and they left just enough teasers of other things to successfully build out into sequels, even if those weren't planned at the time. So I do agree they didn't think it was going to be this successful. So I think that they, didn't plan to, but it worked out well. So yeah, 8.5.
Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I'd probably go with probably a 9 out of 10. I did really enjoy it as like a kid. And I'm trying to remember if it was like just on Halloween or all of October, because I probably watched it all of October anytime it was on. Like between that one and Hocus Pocus and Zombie Island, but that's different. I watched that all like any time of the year because I had that on VHS. But yeah.
Good old VHS pop covers.
Yeah, love those ones. Yeah, 9 out of 10.
All right, Grayson, what about you?
I'm gonna be probably the lowest score here. I'm gonna give it like a 7.5. It was a nice trip down like memory lane. It was cool to see all like the decom tropes and all just everything going on from like back in the early 90s. But yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with it, so it wasn't like a super huge nostalgic trip for me. But I mean, it's enjoyable. If you have kids, obviously put it on. It's good enough to, kind of at least it's clean, good, wholesome fun like Disney, makes. And then like it's definitely a little bit of just a glimpse into the late 90s, early 2000s, atmosphere, because it is dripping with that aesthetic pretty hard. But yeah, if you're looking just to feel like a kid again and kind of just go back to those kind of memories, that's definitely worth a trip down nostalgia lane this season for sure.
All right, so for me, I will give 2 ratings. I will give the rating if you've never seen the movie before and you are an adult, you'll probably think it's like a 6 out of 10. Like if you have nothing, no baseline.
That's a
But
10
if you've
out of 10 for Keegan.
But if you've seen it before or you have kids and you want to show them some fun, probably an 8 out of 10. I think you guys would enjoy this one. And if you grew up with it, you're going to have that nostalgia. And for any of us that grew up in the, the 90s and remember that era, it definitely harkens back to that fun era. So that's us for this week. We talked Halloween Town. Grayson, next week, what are we going to be talking about? What movie?
Oh, good old Sleepy Hollow. We're going to get real gothic with it real quick.
Yeah. Yeah, should be fun. Tim Burton's. So join us next week. The week before Halloween, we'll be talking Sleepy Hollow. Real quick though, David, do you have anything fun coming live for Halloween spooky season?
Absolutely. We have some great Halloween episodes coming out soon for Abnormal Voyages. Some that I'm really excited about. Definitely check it out. I don't want to give too many spoilers about it. You're just going to have to wait and see, but they're going to be a lot of fun. Probably some of my favorite Halloween episodes we've ever done.
Now, Sam, do you want to tease anything that might be coming live tomorrow? I mean, perhaps it deals with my hat.
Mm-hmm. We were checking out the Garden of the Gods, Colorado weird stories of a Sasquatch out there, which we came across something big. We don't know what it was, but I don't
Definitely
believe
a bear.
it was a Sasquatch.
It was definitely a bear. I walked away. I said, nope. Just walk away calmly. Don't mess with the bear. It won't rip your face off. I've seen Grizzly Man. But yeah, it was fun. We also missed out on the Northern Lights by a whole day out there, which would have been really neat with some night photography. But yeah, if you guys want to see that, and Grayson will be back for more movies as well as sports chat. But Grayson, in case anyone wants to check you out and your drawings and stuff like that, where can they do that?
I mean, if they want to go to _Grayman, GRAEMAN, yeah, they can check me out there. That's pretty irregular, but hey, if you want to see some cool stuff every now and again, that's where I'll be.
Right. Well, hey, if you guys want to see more Culz deep dives, click that link to your left. We'll do a special one on the bottom left for a Halloween season deep dives. For more about us here at Culz, check that link to the right, and don't forget to hit like and give us a subscribe. And let us know, what was your favorite part of Halloween Town? Tell us in the comments below.